this is a massive game for the Bills. They end up losing it in overtime. It was a very good game. They've showed that they're right there with the Eagles, but their record now does not suggest that. Their record now is, it's looking rough. We've talked about their schedule the rest of the way. This Bills team is in a fight for the playoffs with a tougher schedule than a team like the Colts, with a tougher schedule than a team like the Broncos. And the question from Tristan is, do we see big changes coming from the Bills in the offseason? They've started to make those changes already, Curtis. I think we'll have to see how it plays out, because this team is obviously very good. They took the Eagles to the brink. This team is very good. But if they don't make the playoffs, then they have to tear it down at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if you have to tear it down. I think you just have to make one easy change, and they gave up 17 points.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. They gave up 17 points in the fourth quarter and then couldn't get a stop. That's on one guy. That's the guy calling the defense. That's the head coach. The defense is his baby, and they gave up 23 points in the last 13 or so minutes, and that's a problem. And you've got an offense that can score when they need to. The offense has never been the problem. So I know their salary cap issues are of concern, but there's ways around that. But I think they're definitely in for a coaching change, and then see what happens, right? A little bit of fresh voice in there. Maybe Josh Allen is a little smilier during some of his press conferences, and you never know what can happen. But they still have a lot of talent on that team. Don't think their window is closed, but I think they do need to make a change.
Yeah, and I think that we still need to watch what happens the rest of the season. As we saw in this game, this team can beat anybody. And so maybe they're going to get on a good run and go through and, and still make the playoffs and still be the Bills we think, and maybe this is all moot. It could be, it could be a lot like with Arthur Smith a few weeks ago, where suddenly that looks like, well, okay, well, we're going to see what happens. But I do think this season has been a bit of a wake-up call that, not everything is great. They've been going so well ever since Josh Allen. Brian Daboll turned everything around with Josh Allen. Josh Allen turned into one of the best players in the league, which he very clearly still is. Everything had been going up and up and up and up. And this is kind of the first time we've seen, well, they had some issues last season, with Allen was hurt, but this is really the first, okay, what are we doing here kind of situation. They fired the offensive coordinator already. That screams of a coach that feels like he's on the hot seat. And now they've lost this game to the Eagles. They have this schedule coming up. It's kind of rough here, Tucker, but I actually want to talk about the Eagles more, because the Eagles were out of this game like 5 different times, and somehow they won this game. And that the Eagles of the last 2 years, that is what this team has been a lot of to me. Last year they were able to blow out teams, but this year specifically they've just been able to be resilient. They lost that one to the Jets. It wasn't good, but against the Commanders when they shouldn't have been in those games, they were able to win them. Against the Patriots when that shouldn't have been a game, they were able to win it. This team just keeps, the Chiefs last week, this team just kind of keeps coming out of these holes, keeps finding what they need to do to win, and that would be promising for me if I'm a Chiefs fan. Is that kind of how you're feeling? I mean, an Eagles fan. Is that how you're feeling?
It's just a weird thing because the Bills dominated this game. Like, if you just look strictly at the box score, Bills got 5 more first downs, converted 13 of 22 on third downs. They outgained the Eagles by like 140 yards, although the Eagles did average more yards per play as the game wore on. The Eagles played probably their worst half of football in the first half of this game, and I said the same thing on Monday night when the Eagles fell behind the Chiefs. I thought that was their worst half of football all season, save for maybe the end of that Jets game they lost. And they just kind of pull it out in the end. Like, they do enough winning plays to figure it out. And I think for Jalen Hurts, I don't know, his numbers aren't getting impressive. He was 18 of 31 for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick, and added 65 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. But I don't know, just the way he buckles down in the second half, the way he's so unbothered by his own struggles in the first half, the way he's so just stoic throughout the game, I think might be his best quality over everything else. I mean, what this team does on a week-to-week basis, it's just weird. Like, you just kind of expect them to win. Even today when they were down 21-14 at the hat, or 21-14 going into the fourth quarter, just kind of felt like, yeah, they'll figure it out. They'll be in it at the end. They're not going to get blown out. And they pull out another one again. And so far, this gauntlet that they had in their schedule, this 6-week run where they had the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Bills, 49ers, Cowboys again in Seattle, they started out 3-0. And now they have a 2-game lead over everybody else in the NFC. And all they have to do is really go 1-1 in their next 2 games. If they can split with San Francisco and Dallas, they pretty much have the 1 seed wrapped up in the NFC, which I just think is crazy to say after kind of watching their struggle, like just the way they pull themselves through the mud on a week-to-week basis. It's a weird team to watch because they're great for this kind of content because they win every week and everybody's happy, but there's a million things to complain about Monday morning.
Yeah, I put a bet when it was that score. I put a live in-game bet on the Eagles. So I'm feeling pretty good about that Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown as well because like you said, this seems to be, the Jets loss, that was not, they got on the wrong side of it that time. But otherwise they've been able to do this and come out of, bad situations. And you would like them to not have to do that. You'd like them to be blowing out teams more often like they were last year. I'm sure that would make Tucker's heart feel a little bit better from week to week. But I do think that ability, like you mentioned it, the kind of just calmness of Jalen Hurts and that ability to be the best they can be in these late game scenarios. That is important for a team as they try to push for a Super Bowl because that's all that matters for this team at this point. We know how good they are. Like you said, they've got a really good shot at the number 1 seed. This is a Super Bowl level team. And to have that from your quarterback really makes you feel a lot better about your chances when you get there. Tucker, do you have any thoughts about the Chiefs here and kind of what we saw from them today?